My name is Leah Fowler. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I am an ERISA advocate, which basically means I use ERISA law to make health insurance companies pay what they're supposed to pay rather than what they feel like paying. So, up until 2 years ago, I didn't know lipedema existed. I had a lady who had lipedema, was having problems with her husband's insurance, and she reached out to me, and we got her money back. And it snowballed from there. I do work with some of the lipedema docs. They want assistance with their patients. They send them to me. I've had other people reach out to me. So, I am not an attorney, okay? Let's get that clear. I have no JD behind my name. I just know ERISA law as well as a lot of attorneys. I've gone toe-to-toe with Cigna's attorney and they've lost twice. Yeah, he hates me, I don't care. So what is ERISA? ERISA was signed into law in 1974. It's been around that long. The final rule went into effect on January 1st of 2003, which technically allows for recovery back to then, but I don't recommend it because if you need an authorization proof that you can represent the patient, usually my draw line is 3 years because people die, people move, etc. So it's hard to get if you do any more than 3 years. So ERISA does apply to both self-funded and fully funded plans. Let's get that straight, because last year I heard, no, it's just self-funded, or no, it's fully funded. No, it covers both. As long as the employer establishes and maintains a health benefit plan for their employees, it is ruled by ERISA, plain and simple. Excuse me. There are exceptions to ERISA law, what I can do. Sorry, but that's the way it goes. Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE, CHAMPA, which is the military plans, workers' comp, except for the great state of Texas, because Texas does not require employers to carry workers' comp on their employees. So if they get hurt on the job in that situation, it kicks over into ERISA because they're using their own health plan. School plans, some may have ERISA language. Church plans until June 15th of 2017, when the US Supreme Court ruled that they are now exempt from ERISA. And government plans, those of you who are federal employees, they do sometimes follow ERISA. If the language is in there that they follow it, they are bound by it. Same with school plans, same with church. If you say that you follow it, I'm sorry, but you're stuck with it. So, contractual allowances when no ERISA denial is present. In other words, if you're a contracted provider and they underpay your contract, I can't use ERISA for that. So, now marketplace plans are covered under ERISA due to the fact that if you ever read all 2,000 and some pages of PPACA and Obamacare, great remedy for, not being able to sleep, by the way. So if you read that, you will note that in the law there, it references back to ERISA on a regular basis. It will quote the sections of ERISA. So that's why I can use that to fight marketplace plan issues. So self-funded versus fully funded. Self-funded, self-insured, the employer is in charge. They make their own benefits determinations, solely responsible for proper administration of the plan document. That's who the DOL goes after. And then more than likely a large employer or union, but I have seen smaller ones. So there's always exceptions to the rule. Now, a fully funded plan makes no benefits determinations. They rely on the payer to do it. So more than likely, again, this is a smaller employer like Joe's Plumbing down the street, but I've seen big employers that are fully funded. So I don't know until I get in the SPD. Speaking of, what is an SPD? SPD stands for Summary Plan Description, your benefits booklet that your employer gives to you. It describes what's covered, what's not covered, how your coinsurance works, all those things. So, and it also defines what out-of-network reimbursement is based on. So, you look in the definitions section, if they say, well, it's paid based on maximum allowed, there's a lot of terms for it, by the way. Maximum allowed, maximal reimbursable charge, allowed amount, could be any one of a number of names. So it tells that. It does not state a specific fee schedule. You will never see that in an SPD. So, excuse me. And it has to be furnished on request. That's the law for full and fair review standards. So what's coinsurance? I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence in here. If you already know this stuff, more power to you. But for those who don't, coinsurance is cost you will pay for services received. The deductible has to be met before your coinsurance will kick in. And it may or may not count toward the out-of-pocket maximum. Again, that depends on the language in your SPD. Deductible. Deductible is the amount that you have to pay before your coinsurance kicks in. Now, some plans allow the deductible to be co-applied to in-network and out-of-network. Some don't allow it. It all comes down to the language in the SPD. I'm going to drum that down your throat, sorry. So out-of-pocket maximum, that's the most you have to pay per year. It can be a calendar year or it can be a specified date. Most plans have a separate out-of-pocket for in-network and out-of-network. There can be exceptions. And plans have to specify what does not apply. So anything, if you're using an out-of-network, for example, anything over the maximum allowed charge will not apply to your out-of-pocket max. Most plans state that once the out-of-pocket maximum has been met, they will then pay 100% of the allowed amount after that. Not the billed, the allowed. Very important that you understand that, because it'll relate to when I get into how a gap works. So, and it will be broken down by individual and family. In-network versus out-of-network differences. In-network providers have a contract with the insurance company. They take what they agreed to receive from the insurance company. They can't balance bill you, and the patient is only responsible for their in-network coinsurance deductible or copay, if they have one. Out-of-network has no contracts at all. Not with Cigna, Aetna, not with Multiplan, Three Rivers, anybody like that. So ERISA per ERISA, it must be reimbursed based on the plan summary description for how out-of-network is reimbursed. A gap exception, and this is very important because a lot of you have come to me and said, I have a gap exception. I should have got reimbursed everything because now my provider's in-network. If you read that documentation real closely, and you have to know what's going on, like I'm teaching you now, it will state that we are applying your in-network benefits. That means it reduces your coinsurance amount from, say, industry standard 30% down to industry standard in-network is 20%, could be 10, you know. But it does not apply to reimbursement. They cannot legally reimburse an out-of-network provider at a contracted rate. They can't. And they can balance bill you for the difference. Now, those of you who pay for procedures up front, because I do know there are providers that do that, so once you file your claim, I want to make you aware, when you get that EOB back, say the provider billed $20,000. I've been hearing lately the range is from $1.71 up to $600. They have no basis for it, but yeah, that's what they're doing. So the gap exception, how it truly works. It can be named other things in your SPD, which is why I do the SPD reviews, so you know if you have the possibility, you don't. And the purpose is to reduce the patient's cost-sharing responsibility. And again, does not apply to provider reimbursement. So if the SPD has no gap language, you or your provider can still request one, but they don't have to give one. And believe me, they're not that generous most of the time. How a single case agreement works. If you go to an in-network provider, you don't need one of these. They're already bound by a contract. The only time you need an SCA is when you go to an out-of-network provider. And not all of them take them. They don't have to, because sometimes they really lowball them on that. Why would they want to do that? But it has to be negotiated between the provider and the payer, because that provider is agreeing with the payer, hey, I'll take $5,000, we're done, I don't bill the patient, we're good to go. They do still have to pay their co-insurance and their deductible, but they don't have to pay the difference from what was paid versus what was billed. And it only applies to a single date of service. Medical necessity, oh boy, here's a hot one right now. I'm sure some of you that have already filed your pre-authorizations have had it come back denied for medical necessity. ERISA has very strict requirements for who can do medical reviews under medical necessity. It's not a good thing here. So, the medical reviewer needs to be board certified or licensed in the same specialty as the service being rendered. Okay? And the reviewer of an appeal cannot be the same reviewer as the initial request. And a documented, dated, and signed review, along with the reviewer's credentials, has to be supplied upon request. No exceptions. And what they're doing now, I've seen ortho denying for medical necessity, I've seen cardio, I've seen OBGYN, I've seen RNs. They're not qualified. What to ask your provider about insurance? Okay. You're going to get misled if you ask your provider, for those that do take the insurance, do you take insurance? Well, yeah, we take insurance, no problem. Okay, what you should be asking them is, are you in network with my insurance? Because they should know that. And if they don't, keep asking for somebody that might know, because they should know whether they're contracted or not. You should also ask, especially the in-network, well, I just covered that, do they require payment up front? You need to know that. Will they do any pre-authorization submission if needed? Do they accept an SCA? Do they handle a gap exception request? These are all things you should be asking your providers, because they affect you and how you're going to end up owing, or what you're going to end up owing. So, I know I blew through this because I wanted to leave time for questions. That's my contact information. I have Facebook group, ERISA Facts Not Fallacies. You have to answer 3 questions to get admitted. It's a private group. You can PM me on Facebook, Leah Fowler, and you can email me at leahfowler78@gmail.com. So that's it, guys. Do we have any questions, or?
We have time for one very quick question.
Okay.
Can anyone find a list that has a directory of doctors who accept in-network insurance and which insurance they accept?
I have an Excel spreadsheet out on my Facebook group, And there's no charge for any information that's out on my Facebook page, none. So I put together a list. I called around to different lipedema surgeons that I knew, ones I had heard of from other groups, and I put together that list. So again, it's only to help you make the decision with who you want to see, who you want to talk to. I never, ever, ever steer patients toward one provider or another. I won't do it. It's your choice. It's your body. It's your choice. Now, if you want, I see I got a little bit of time left, but probably not to do the other questions. If you do have questions, you can see me after this session. I will be at my booth. Yes, I do have a vendor booth out there, ERISA Advocacy. And also, like I mentioned in that Facebook group, I have gone through and pulled the specifications from Aetna, Cigna, UHC, and some of the Blues for their policies on lipedema. Now, these policies on lipedema also include what ICD codes they're looking for and what CPT codes they're looking for. But instead of you reading through everything as to what's required, if you're doing your own pre-auth packet, I just go ahead and I have made a Word document checklist mirrored off of the requirements. So if you're putting your own packet together, you can just go bing, 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 bing. Okay, I have everything, I'm good. Not that you're probably going to get approved if there's a doctor or an RN that isn't qualified doing it, but you know your packet is complete.
So I fibbed earlier when I said we only had time for one question. I was looking at the clock wrong. Does Medicare fall under the ERISA laws?
No, it does not.
How about the Medicare supplements or Advantage plans?
It depends on the language in the plan.
Okay.
Everything boils down to the language in the plan, because the plan is the ruling document according to a unanimous Supreme Court ruling back in 2009. It's not their internal guidelines. And if you look at those, the first paragraph says, if there's a conflict between this policy and the patient's benefits booklet, the patient's benefit booklet rules. So.
Should I trust what my insurance tells me about my policy and benefits?
Oh, yeah, I only have a couple minutes. We're going to make this short and sweet, okay? I don't want to use the word lie. Okay, we're going to work around that. What the person on the other end of the phone tells you when you call the insurance company is based on generalities. Here's a scary thought for you. They do not have a copy of your personal document. They're just telling you what the system tells them. They don't have a copy of it. They're supposed to adjudicate claims based on it, but they don't have a copy of it. That's scary.
And the final question, I have Anthem insurance through work, and my friend has Anthem at a different company. Will we have the same coverage?
No, you will not. Because you might have Anthem with a bunch of different people or UHC with a bunch of people that you know, but unless you work for the same employer, every plan is different. Every plan has different language. Some exclude some things, some don't exclude some things. You could have 5 people that all have Anthem, and unless they work for the same employer, it's going to be different.